a bitter rivalry, a succession crisis, and a battlefield tragedy that would echo for over 1,400 years. This isn't just dry religious history. It's a deeply human story of family, power, and principle that ended up creating one of the most significant divisions in the world. So together, we're going to uncover the real origins of the Sunni-Shia schism. To really get why this story matters so much, you first have to grasp its modern scale. Today, Islam is the faith of more than 1.5 billion people all across the globe. But, like any major world religion, it is definitely not a monolith. The biggest and most well-known division within Islam is between the Sunni and Shia traditions. Now, you can see here that Sunnis make up the vast majority of Muslims worldwide, but the Shia community represents a really significant and influential branch of the faith. Of course, the story behind these numbers is way more complex than a simple chart can ever show. Which brings us right to our central question. How did a single, united community, the Ummah, fracture into these two great traditions? Well, the answer lies way back at the very beginning, in the moments right after the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632 AD.
So when the Prophet passed, he left behind this thriving community, but, and this is absolutely crucial, he left no clear, undisputed instructions on who should lead next. This power vacuum sparked an immediate, fundamental disagreement, one that would become the very root of the schism.
And right at the heart of this dispute is Ali ibn Abi Talib. He wasn't just any follower, he was family. As Muhammad's cousin, he was basically raised in the Prophet's own house. He married the Prophet's daughter, Fatima, and was one of the very first people to convert to Islam. So to his supporters, he was the obvious and only rightful heir.
And this is just incredible. The entire schism can pretty much be traced back to how people interpreted a single, ambiguous word. During a sermon, the Prophet took Ali's hand and declared, "Anyone who has me as his Mawla has Ali as his Mawla." So for those who had become Shias, Mawla clearly meant leader or master, a direct designation of succession. But for those who had become Sunnis, it just meant friend or beloved, a statement of personal affection, not a political appointment.
Then there was another critical moment, which came to be known as the pen and paper incident. Just days before his death, Muhammad asked for writing materials to create a statement that would, in his words, prevent his followers from going astray. But his close companion Omar objected, basically saying the Quran was enough. A dispute broke out, Muhammad sent everyone away, and the statement was never written. Shias believe he was about to formally name Ali as his successor, leaving a question that, history can never definitively answer.
So what happened right after he died? Well, while Ali was busy with the Prophet's funeral, a small group of elders got together and chose another companion, Abu Bakr, as the first caliph or leader. And then, over the next 2 decades, Ali was passed over 3 times, as Abu Bakr, then Umar, and then Uthman led the community. And you can bet that with each succession, the political tensions around Ali's claim just kept growing. After years of all this simmering tension, this political disagreement finally just exploded into open warfare. This period would become known as the First Fitna, or the First Civil War.
Ali's time to lead finally came in 656 AD, but the circumstances just could not have been worse. He was made caliph in the immediate, chaotic aftermath of the assassination of the third caliph, Uthman. The community was already totally fractured and on edge.
Right away, Ali faced some really powerful opposition. The Prophet's own wife, Aisha, was demanding justice for Uthman's murder. At the same time, the powerful governor of Syria, Muawiyah, who was actually a relative of Uthman, he flat out refused to pledge allegiance. He used the assassination as a pretext to directly challenge Ali's authority, and just like that, the Caliphate descended into civil war.
But Ali's reign was cut short. After a major battle against Muawiyah, Ali agreed to arbitration to stop the bloodshed. This decision infuriated a radical faction of his own supporters, who saw it as a weak compromise. They broke away, became known as the Kharijites, and one of them assassinated Ali in 661 AD while he was praying.
So Ali's eldest son, Hassan, was proclaimed the next caliph, but Muawiyah's army was just far stronger. To prevent even more civil war, Hassan stepped down and signed a peace treaty. The terms were really clear. Muawiyah could rule, but he had to do it according to Islamic law. And, this is the most important part, he could not appoint his own successor. The leadership was supposed to go back to a council for a decision.
This treaty set the stage for the single most defining and tragic event in this entire story, a battle that would transform a political dispute into a sacred story of martyrdom, cementing the division forever. The Tragedy of Karbala.
Towards the end of his life, Muawiyah broke the most critical term of his treaty with Hassan. He named his own son, Yazid, as his heir. Now, this was a radical move. It completely shattered the tradition of an elected-style leader and basically turned the Caliphate into a hereditary monarchy. This, as you can imagine, sparked outrage among those loyal to the Prophet's family.
After Muawiyah's death, Ali's younger son, Husayn, who was the Prophet's own grandson, became the face of the opposition. He started getting letters from the city of Kufa, pleading with him to come lead a revolt against the tyrant Yazid. Trusting their promises, Husayn set out with his family. But it was a trap. Before he even got there, Yazid's forces had brutally crushed the Kufan uprising, leaving Husayn and his small band completely isolated.
Husayn's group was intercepted on the plains of Karbala, and the disparity in forces was just staggering. Husayn was accompanied by only about 72 followers in his family. Yazid's army numbered in the thousands. The odds weren't just long, they were completely impossible.
Yazid's army surrounded Husayn's camp and cut them off from water. After days of a stalemate, with Husayn refusing to pledge allegiance to a corrupt ruler, the army attacked. On the 10th day of the month of Muharram, Husayn, his sons, and his companions, the direct family of the Prophet Muhammad, were slaughtered. This was the point of no return.
The massacre at Karbala was so much more than just a battle. It was a foundational event. It solidified the identities of both communities and created a legacy of martyrdom that would shape the course of history for centuries to come.
You know, the term Shia actually comes from Shiat Ali, which simply means the party of Ali. What had started as a political faction arguing for Ali's right to lead, now transformed. Fueled by the tragedy of Karbala, it evolved into a distinct religious and theological branch of Islam, with its very own interpretations and traditions.
And so, here we are at the fundamental difference that defines the two traditions. It really all boils down to leadership. Sunni Islam believes the community's leaders should be chosen by consensus, based on the traditions of the Prophet. Shia Islam, however, believes leadership is a divine right, passed down only through the Prophet's family, known as the al-Bayt.
And this is the enduring power of Karbala. For Shia Muslims, Husayn's stand was never a military defeat, it was a moral victory. It became the ultimate symbol of sacrificing your own life to fight tyranny and injustice, transforming martyrdom into a central pillar of the faith.
And you have to understand, this is not just ancient history, it is a living tradition. Every single year, Shia Muslims mourn the events of Karbala during the month of Muharram, and it all culminates on the day of Ashura. Millions of people make the Arbaeen pilgrimage to Husayn's shrine in Iraq. It's one of the largest annual gatherings of people in the entire world. The story of principle over power continues to resonate so deeply.
And so we're left with a final thought. This entire, complex history, from the interpretation of a single word to the outcome of a single battle, created a division that has lasted for 14 centuries. It really leaves you wondering, how does the memory of these events continue to shape not just religious identity, but the very geopolitics of our modern world?